This is Jeremy Wentworth-Stanley. I'm the fellow who has a hyphen in my name. The hyphen is silent, but I am anything but that. This mini-podcast is brought to you by Respectonomics. My name is Jeremy Wentworth-Stanley, and the subject of this episode is the grace of gratitude. A previous mini-podcast worked on the principle of the art of thanking. That's the art of giving thanks. This one deals with the grace that we experience when we receive thanks and how we respond. In Latin, the word for to thank you is ago gratias. Gratias is the thanks. Ago is the word that means I lead or I deal in a transaction. If we're going to transact thanks and gratitude, we need to understand that there are two parts to the equation. There's the giving of the thanks, but there's also the receiving of the thanks. I liken it to a bicycle chain. If you look at a bicycle chain, one chain is doing the driving, one chain is doing the receiving. But if the chain is not receiving, there will be no driving. So the integrity of being thanked and receiving that thanks is very important to the transaction of receiving thanks. When we receive thanks, one of the things that we wrestle with is the sincerity of the thanks. Many thanks that we get given would be described as formulaic or statutory. There's ones that you see at the end of a letter from some financial organization. When we see the thank you does not render that sincerity that reaches to our very beings, then it makes sense that receiving of a thank you isn't that significant. The thanks we're talking about here are those sincere thanks, the one that came from somebody who is genuinely, authentically grateful for something you have done for them, and they want to express their gratitude. When we receive that gratitude, we do a number of things. First of all, we validate the individual who gave us the thanks. So we're building them up. And Respectonomics' central theme, of course, is to rebuild, to restore the dignity of the human being. So accepting thanks is one vehicle we can use to validate another human being. It respects them. It lets them have the opportunity to say thank you, which is important, that when people have been well treated, there is quite often an inner being that says to us, I want to say thank you. And so we are giving that individual the opportunity to say thank you as well as receiving it. It also reinforces inclusivity. That's a word that's gone bandied around, how we need to be including people. Well, one of the ways to include people is to receive their thanks. Now that's looking at it from the standpoint of the person who's thanking us, but I want to talk about us as the receiver, because when I receive thanks and when I accept it, in fact, it does dignify me. It's part of the process of restoring our own dignity, that when I receive your thanks, I am dignifying myself as well. And in the bargain, it strengthens me. And also, it gives me an awareness of my giftedness. All of us have gifts. And when we are thanked, this is a way of recognizing the giftedness that we have and how that giftedness can be explored or expanded like an estuary to other people. And the other truth is that as I begin to recognize the awareness of my giftedness, it also helps me to restate my identity and to give me value. Restating our identity is becoming increasingly important in a world that prefers to treat us as automatons or digital icons. In terms of how do I do the receiving of the thanks, there are a few thoughts here. One of them is to be able to say to the individual, even if I don't say it in words, but attitudinally, to say, I have the capacity to do more. I can say, it is my pleasure. It truthfully is. Giving should be pleasurable, and if I've given somebody pleasure, then I can reciprocate. Very important word, reciprocate, by saying, that's so kind of you to thank me. And I also can say to that individual, well, you gave me the opportunity, and I appreciate that. I could also say to that person who's thanked me is to say, and I am with you all the way. The last comment is this. When we accept thanks, it's a nutrient. It's a nutrient to the soul. And when we find our souls are being well fed, that is when we are in the best opportunity, the best place to give ourselves to other people. That awareness of giftedness, that awareness of being able to rebuild our own dignity and our own self-respect is essential to our ability to thank other people and to recognize their giftedness and their accomplishments. I would like to sign off with thank you for listening. My greater calling is this. Thank you for being you. I rest my case.